Hey everyone, welcome in. Betsperts Golf here for our 2024 Memorial Jack's Place. Week before, I guess the calm before the storm at this point, Andy. We are the third major. US Open is on deck, and again, not a comp course per se, but you got to play really good golf. You can't fake it around here. You're not gonna be able to fake it around Pinehurst next week. What's going on?
Yeah, it's probably a good lead in. Last few weeks, it's been a good lead in.
Yeah.
Man, how does the Canadian Open just always deliver? Much better course this year. I love the
Fantastic
course.
track. Yeah.
I really hope they continue to go there. I haven't looked ahead. I don't know if it's like the U.S. Open where it's like, hey, here's for the next 19. Because what's the place where the clubhouse burnt down up in Michigan? I can't think of it.
Oakmont? That's not.
Oakmont's New York. Maybe I'm off.
It's
one
not
way or
Michigan.
the other. You ever see that where it's like, hey, this is, they're hosting the US Open in 2043 and stuff like how far out they go. I don't know if they do that with the Canadian Open. I know they plan ahead.
Well, I know Feinberg's course was on deck to get it again, but I think that the membership doesn't want it. We had that.
That would be ideal. I didn't love that one.
Part of it too is
I'd be fine with this. And then, God, what's the one down in? There's the one in Quebec that they've played at a few times.
Well, I know they're at TPC Toronto next year, which is
Osprey Valley. That one's the rebuild.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a fun one. Yeah, it's nowhere near Toronto. It's like how the Chicago courses for Live are in Chicago. It's like Pumpkin Ridge or whatever the fuck it was. It's like, that's an hour from the city. Same thing with this one in Toronto. But no, just kind of off track here. But Canadian Open delivered. That was fun. It was good golf. It was. I don't think the courses we have up there are ever going to be, what we desire, like what the Hardos want, like they're going to get at Muirfield, what they're going to get at some of these US Open tracks. But it was nice to see a little bit of challenge here and there. It wasn't a first guy to 22 under kind of thing. So good track, good field. Everyone played well. It was fun. I bet against Mackenzie Hughes in the matchups. That was funny. I think the matchups I won were, nicely, but I had a couple where it was like, like I bet against Tom Kim. I bet against Mackenzie Hughes. Like, I guess I had him as, wide range guys, but man, it all sucks. Like when you have a matchup bet against somebody and they're leading the tournament. And it's and it's not just like, I bet Rory against Scotty and Scotty's leading. I can live with that. And the other ones kind of hurt. So it was overall, I did okay. It was a fun watch, fun hang. And yeah, it's a great 3-week stretch here, because we're going to go right into a very difficult tournament, very difficult course. It's gotten more difficult since the 2020, redesign. And then into the US Open. So if you like hardo golf, if you want to cheer for the course, this is kind of your best bet. We're going to have cut lines. The cut lines are going to start with a plus for the next 2 weeks.
Sure.
We're going to see some absolute ejections. There's wide fairways here, and we're still going to see people have problems. So I'm pumped for this one. The milkshake thing, you can take it. Like, that's so dumb. Like there's no like, this is the best milkshake I've ever had. I have to come back for this milkshake. It's a milkshake, guys. It's like ice cream and milk. Like
it's hard to make bad milkshakes. Let's just put that out there, right? Like,
and I know, you could
like bad pizza.
People in New Haven, Chicago, Detroit, New York would argue, but there's no such thing as bad pizza either. Some of the best pizza I have is like from Costco, man. There's some pretty good frozen pizzas. Technology's come a long way. So yeah, I'm kind of jazzed for this. I'm jazzed for this, even if it's a signature event, which somebody made the case for that RBC Canadian should be a signature event. It's like, I get it. It would help the field, I guess, because, the top players only have so many they can miss. You'd have the more top players play up there. But I don't like the no cut. I don't like the smaller fields. I will say this week, and if anyone was wondering and doesn't have this information yet, this is one of the signature events that has a cut. So we'll have to make that clear every time we have one of these. So it's 80, but top 50 and ties are going through to the weekend. So there still is a cut. It's not a guaranteed paycheck for these guys. They do got to get through. Other than that,
it has the old Masters wrinkle of within 10 strokes as well. So it's top 50 in ties, 72 guys in the field within 10 strokes. You could have a scenario where 4 guys, 8 guys, like
if it's a tight, if it's a tight dispersion. So like,
right,
the cut line, I believe the cut line last year was 2 over, and the first round leader was like 5 over or 5 under, and maybe second round they were like 6 or 7. So, in that case, we would have gotten extra people through. Here, let's look. 2023, second round leader was 8 under, so it was exactly 10 strokes from the cut line. Apparently, cut line was 3. It was 2 and 22. So I don't know. We did go look at this at one of the other tournaments, and it's like, normally it'd be like, cut line was 11 strokes off the lead, cut line was 12, wouldn't have made a difference. But there was one year in whatever tournament it was, we were looking back at, where it's like, like 78 people would have made it on ties or being close. So there's always that chance. I guess we'll see what the leaders can do. All it takes is one guy having just,
correct,
a couple extra chips, a couple extra, a hole out here or a long putt there, and suddenly he's 3 clear, and a bunch of people miss the cut. But you want to talk course a little? You want to talk course rebuild? Do you remember?
Yeah, the event itself is interesting to me because I like, first of all, it's Memorial, and we've moved off of Memorial Day weekend, which is ironic. But I know why. So it's not about us, right? We're like in this, but the moving it to a spot before a major, and I know they've done this with like coming out of a major with the RBC and having some of these nice events back to back, either on the front side of a major or on the back side of a major. I get why they're doing it. They want some lead in for the casuals. Be like, oh no, I watched these guys last week. We'll go watch them this week. So it's tricky. Like I get why we have it. And I like it too, getting ramped up in terms of it's probably, Canada was leading into the US Open the last couple of years. But I don't know. It's weird. Like I like having this event here, but I also feel like Memorial should be a spot on the calendar where it could be in and of itself and get a little bit more. It's almost like the Heritage, having the Heritage right after the Masters kind of sucks because Harbor Town's fantastic. You get this like post Masters hangover, different type of track, and you want these like really nice places to kind of hang out by themselves in the schedule. So I'm like, I wish that this was in a different spot, but I don't know how we do that. At this point, like you're off of Memorial Day, you're already taking that step, like put it somewhere else. I don't know. So that's
I get, and it's the same. You see the same thing, and the only other real analog, and again, it's an individual sport. It has 4 majors, and they certainly, it's a little more international in tennis. I'm talking about,
sure,
but they will do tournaments near and on the same surface in the lead up. Like when you have the Australian Open, you're playing all these in the Melbourne, the one in New Zealand. There's a bunch over that way, but the week before, it's never like, hey, here's a really good Masters 1000 right before a slam. Right. Same thing, with Wimbledon. We have all the shitty grass tournaments in Germany and England leading up to it. Clay, we have some good thousands, but there's always this like buffer where you have like a week of shitty 250s for whoever needs to get some extra points or needs to tune up for qualifying. Like I do love the fact that they build in that buffer, and I'm with you there. I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, it's easier to do this in the front end of the schedule.
Yeah, the leadership in golf right now probably has more questions than answers. So I don't think we're fixing this, but it does stink that it doesn't get its own like fanfare. Like, there's already articles up all over the place. I've written some about the U.S. Open. Like we're talking about the U.S. Open already. That's what kind of stinks for this.
And that's kind of my point.
We're not talking about, and that's all the Memorial stuff I want to do until the end. We'll talk about some bets. I want to kind of pivot over to Houston.
Yeah,
we got Houston Live too.
Yeah, you want to do Houston Live? I mean, you're our, our alternate.
I'm working on an article for that.
Okay.
You know what's the fun part? If you do want to dig into Live this week, the Houston Children's Open, as it's called now, I know it's played elsewhere, but up until 2019, that's where they played that golf course. Like you have records of golf being played within 5-6 years at a course by, a lot of people. In fact, Ian Poulter won there one time while it was played there. He's on Live. So there's actually some data this week. It's kind of fun. You can look at how this course played rather than, do I have to learn a language and call the greenskeeper in Singapore and figure this out? Or like some sort of teledial where I have a translator? Like, I don't know how to dig up this. So it's actually a little bit of a fun weekend Live, but we'll probably stick mostly in Ohio. Muirfield, tough.
Yeah.
Just long grass.
long grass, long course.
Fast screens.
Yeah, you need the whole thing, right? You they stretch this thing out. You mentioned, we'd be coming here all the time, but at the same time, after the redesign in 2020, Ron and I touched on this a little bit on Monday morning too on the First Look show. I'd be very careful with course history that kind of precedes the renovation, and I think that's we've had some of these in the last couple of weeks where we've had facelifts, redos, and some of them have been more aesthetics or functional, like even Hamilton, Colonial. I thought was more of just a better drainage system and stuff like that. They did a little bit here and there to a handful of holes, but for the most part, the course's integrity and backbone remain the same. And I think that isn't really the case with what happened here at Memorial back in 2020. So course history that precedes that, I'd be very careful with because I think it plays almost a full stroke harder. And it's a long track. 7,500. We even changed another hole this year to stretch it out like another 40 yards. It's about 75 and change from the tips. Fifth longest on tour. You mentioned like this is Jack's baby, and obviously when some success, both at Muirfield overseas and at Augusta, so kind of wanted it to be some sort of combination of all that. So you do have some Augusta elements here and some DNA. You mentioned with the generous fairways, but again, you can find yourself, if you miss and you're not in the fairway, the rough is penal. This is probably, I think last year, just in general, greens and reg was like 52%, which is about 14% worse than a tour average event. It was 39% from the rough. So you are not really putting yourself in position to score whatsoever if you are not in the fairway off the tee. And because of the distance you need to be, or the length of the course, you need some distance there too. So a lot of different ways to chop this up this week in terms of length, accuracy, some sort of combination of total driving, but good drive percentage. You have to see if how can you handle it in these scenarios where you do miss the green, because these are second shot course, a lot of longer 175 plus approaches. And scrambling is inevitable when you have a spot where 50% of the time you're not even hitting the green, firm and fast bent grass greens. So again, you need the whole thing. It's last year we were 7 under to win. You mentioned, a plus cut, which is great. Last year, a little harder than years past, but you're still barely getting into the low teens, double digits in terms of being inside the top 5 here. So, not a birdie fest. You need to be kind of dialed in across the board. And I think that's going to set up for what's going to be required next week. So in a way, even though the courses ask for different things, Pinehurst versus Muirfield Village, you need to have the entire bag to be dialed in and win over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, a little different than a U.S. Open setup, but still difficult. Somebody described it well as the holes get harder as you go on, not like sequencing from 1 through 18, but sequencing from tee shot to putting.
Yeah.
Because of like, hey, good for you. You found the fairway. Like it isn't just, oh, well, now I have 125 in and a 8,000 square foot green that's soft as shit. Right. And I'm going to, it's still pretty pure bent, but still they're small. You got to find the right spots. There's going to be a lot of, hey, this pin isn't in a spot where I can go for it. Like I can go for it, but my ball's going to end up 30 yards off the green then. Like there just isn't a shot in the bag for a lot of these guys to pin seek on some of these holes. And that's why the scoring is going to be a little higher than usual. That's probably why it was a little higher last year. It's just when these greens are tough and when they're playing a little bouncy and quick, it's like you said, the greens and regulation percentage is so low, and then you talk about the around the green. Like I said, it gets harder as it goes. If you do miss the green, even if you hit the green, it's difficult to find yourself in great positions for a lot of birdie looks, or a lot of reasonable birdie looks. And if you do miss the green, which is going to happen like half the time, there's some pretty difficult approach shots. And I think a lot of that are, around the green, chipping, scrambling, what have you. I think a lot of, what you see from some of the successful golfers that have played well here is it's not like they're trying to miss the green. Nobody wants to miss the green, but they're hitting shots where they know, they're treating it like a math problem almost. Like, hey, if I miss here, I'm not leaving myself in just a garbage spot, short-sighted for, probably chipping and either ending up with a 40-foot par putt or ending up with a spot where I'm off the green again. Like, you really do have to kind of dance around some of these spots when you're taking those second shots. So it's the smart golfers. It's the guys who can, pull out a couple shots and find a few management. Find a few like, hey, I hit a good tee shot. I'm scrambling at this point just because of where this pin is and how this green is played. It's crazy how maybe that is the prep for the US Open, because that's what you get when you get tough golf. It's like, hey, I have a really nice tee shot. I'm still scrambling at this point. I'm still probably looking at a par here and pretty happy with it. So I'm excited. There's 110 damn acres of rough. And like you said, it's penal. If you do miss the fairway, that penalty is high. Like you said, missing the greens is high from everywhere. Once you get off in the rough, you're really in trouble. So you're going to put a bit of a emphasis on scrambling, an emphasis on around the green. I don't know how I feel about putting here. You need to be able
the putting stats actually is the only thing that's a little bit easier than tour average in terms of, because they're smaller greens, so you have fewer long putts, you have fewer 3 putts. The one thing is they are going to be fast. So what you're talking about too, course management, like it's not just the scrambling. It's like where I need to leave myself below the hole to have that uphill putt. Because if I have that screaming downhill putt to save par, like no one wants anything to do with those. So course management here is going to be really, really, really important. So thinking man's course for sure. You'll be able to take your medicine, know that par is a good score on a lot of these holes, and keep it moving, move on. So, all right, so let's mull a little bit. A lot of different ways to do it this week. And I'm excited about going through this, and people should check it out. Before we do, want to let people know this is a fantastic deal. So right now, if you're watching for the first time, you do not have a subscription.
I didn't want to do this deal. I think it's too cheap.
Yeah, we fought yesterday about it.
I'm not even going to talk.
It's too cheap. We're too cheap in general. Full price. We have a bunch of partners, Underdog, Vivid Picks, Better. All that information is on the site. So many different ways to get access to what we do at Betsperts Golf and the Rabbit Hole for really cheap. But we just decided let's just make it even cheaper for some reason. 50% off for a weekly or monthly right now using the promo code SUMMER24 to get you access to everything that we're doing. All the premium content, Rabbit Hole, DFS Optimizer, Custom Simulator, get you in the Discord, get you all the official picks. You'll be able to read Live Houston write-up this week, all the great stuff that we have going on over at the site. Check it out. Again, promo code SUMMER24 for 50% off. And you can choose weekly or monthly. Take a monthly, take a spin, get it for this week, get it for the US Open, and let's just, see if it's of value to you. I think you'll find it pretty interesting. Player pages are up and running. Very excited about that resource for you too. Again, click on anyone's name in the Rabbit Hole and it'll take you to a player specific page. You want to get the details on, their rolling form, how they handle certain conditions, all the information you can find in the Rabbit Hole, available on a player level, which we're really, really excited about. So check that out. It's going to be, it's a great deal. Again, I get it. People want to dip their toes. They're not really sure. I can figure out a lot of free content, but you want to get the model of Andy Lack, Inside Golf Podcast, Matt Vicenzi, Tapping In Podcast, Ron Clark, our guy PGA Splits 101. in the rabbit hole, you can just click into their models as well, see what they built. So I know the term modeling can be intimidating, but hopefully hanging out with us, watching this, we're making it user friendly. And I think just navigating the rabbit hole itself is pretty straightforward. And I think it takes a little bit of the fear of all that can entail. Even the term modeling can be a little bit intimidating. And I hope that you find that.
Yeah, I'm working on some NFL stuff right now. And I mean, just go ask a data scientist. Go watch a video on like intro to data science. And like, I feel like a lot of them will say, hey, guess what? Like, you have to know a lot about this, that, and the other thing. And it does help to have some math background and some data and computer science background. But like, no matter what, the biggest part of data modeling is data wrangling, data cleaning, and just data acquisition. Like that is the there's some intricacies, and it's not just click it and it just tells you who the winner is. You still got to play around and do some stuff. But it is modeling made a little easier because we've gone and gotten all the PGA data for you, cleaned it up, wrangled it, put it into nice buckets for you. So we'll use the tool right now. We'll build a model. We'll see what we think matters here at Muirfield. Like I've talked about in the past, I make some other ones. I make some, last week for approach. I did just like an approach only model. It was seriously just a bunch of different time buckets for approach. It was a bunch of different time buckets for greens and regulation. Just looking at second shot stats and trying to get a feel for who could spike on things like that, who is a very high floor for things like that for some of my matchups. And it's not a full ass model, but it's something I find useful. Today we'll do what we call a mixed condition model, where we pick some stats that we think matter a ton here. Key stats, as the kids call it. We'll match it together and see how the rabbit hole ranks our players.
Yeah. Again, if you're new, there's a little tutorial here on the site. You can watch it, but I think just watching this show today, the Monday show, we go ahead and build a little bit of a preliminary model as well. I think can alleviate any concerns that you have and the difficulty in navigating this. Because like Andy said, this is officially licensed PGA Tour data. We did a lot of the work for you. You just have to figure out which things you want to put into the bucket and how much weight you want to give each of those buckets. Let's start with our anchor stat. Obviously, we can look at 2024 form. The way I like to do these courses, Andy, you can do, and you probably would do more buckets than what we do here on the show. I just want to see how people play in these scenarios where it's scoring conditions are difficult relative to par, and the course is long or field strength, whatever you tend to gravitate to. I like scoring conditions and course length. I think it gives us an indicator of it just kind of alleviates some of the easier courses or shorter courses and is I think a decent baseline anchor stat for us to take a look at. So let's see what we get here. We'll go into the filter section. We'll select difficult and very difficult scoring conditions and very long courses. We'll back this out to a longer sample size. We'll see here let's go 2 years and see, because that's giving us almost 60 rounds for most of these guys. Who plays well under these scenarios? And also, you can click into this here, this round number, and that'll show you actually. Let me see. Oh, I did a new window. I should do a new tab. Yeah, here. This will actually show you the courses that qualify for these conditions for Scotty Scheffler and this, the player that we clicked in. So FY, that's available for you as well. You can see here, this makes sense, right? Scotty, Rory, Xander, Homa, Hideki, Hovland, Tommy, Wyndham Clark, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Patrick Cantley. That makes sense to me. Who plays good well players. Good players. And that's kind of what we want with the anchor stat. So we'll add this in there as our anchor. Can make a note here. You don't have to. All right. What do you want to do next? You want to do anything else anchor wise, or do you want to go to off the tee?
Yeah, I don't know. Is it good drives gained? Is it drive? It's probably some sort of accuracy stat. Like we said, it matters so much to find these fairways. There's a lot of decisions, and we've heard quotes from golfers saying, that some of the changes that have made it more difficult have turned it into a clubbing down kind of spot, or, maybe not even just clubbing down off the tee, but hey, this is a par 5 I can't go for anymore. hey, they put water in front of the green on this par 5, and suddenly it's a layup. So, I think there's going to be some laying up, but I still don't want to call it a less than driver course just because of the length. So I think just leaving the filters alone and looking at driving accuracy would probably be good. You can do that. If you wanted to combine it with another stat, you can do driving accuracy and, distance from edge of fairway.
So total driving, I guess, right? So we're kind of
total driving takes into distance too, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I think we should, right? I mean, we're 70. If it's the 5th longest track on tour.
Fair. All right, total driving it is.
I would like to make my own total driving typically. What do you want sample size wise? Well, we'll keep this. This is fine. Total driving last 6 months. If I were to do a filter here, I would do something in terms of you can go in here and select you can select rough surface if you like, but missed fairway penalty high, rough penalty high, something like that. And like that you can mess around with in terms of looking at that from a ball striking standpoint, looking at that from a good drives game, because good drives is capturing a little bit of both off the tee and approach. I think those are great ways to do it, because I think that matters quite a bit here. Missed fairway penalty is something that we should probably capture. Gaining off the tee has been harder too since the renovation. So I think there's, again, off the tee matters a ton, and there's lots of different ways to capture it here this week. So I would take a look at some of those as well. So we did total driving. Anything else off the tee? Do you want to move to approach?
Yeah, probably just approach. I think I'm fine with it. We use such an all-encompassing stat. It doesn't make sense to add more.
Yeah. Now, there are a lot of 175 plus approaches. But again, when you have such a high split in like fairway percentage of greens, right? I don't like to get caught up in the proximity buckets necessarily this week. I'd rather look at some of the basic features here in terms of approach, and mess around with conditions versus anything like that. Because for me, it's just really hard to weigh it properly, right? How do I really capture the shot dispersion for each player? Because when I put it in a model like this and give it like a just all-encompassing percentage, it kind of robs some guys who are going to play a higher percentage of shots from closer versus other guys who are going to play a higher percentage of shots from further out. So it gets a little tricky modeling wise.
Yeah, I almost want to add a filter here just because it is, we'd have to go to a bigger sample. Maybe we look at the last 2 years, but adding a tough greens and regulation filter, just I don't know if long courses is the best way to filter it, because it's just, there's some long courses that play easy, fucking Puerto Rico, or what is it? Not Puerto Rico. One of those down there. Maybe it is Puerto Rico. One of those is a pretty long course, and it's certainly not a tough greens and regulation course. So I want to go tough greens and regulation, and just maybe look at, it doesn't have to be greens and regulation percentage. It can be any of them. It can be straight up approach for all I care. Just how are you gaining on approach compared to the field when you're all playing in a spot like this? And, again, I would like to go to a bigger sample size than 6 months. Maybe a year's enough.
Okay. We're getting a real good sample. Let's see. We'll go for a year and see what we get. 40 or so rounds. This is a filter with green and reg accuracy is difficult. I could see strokes gained approach in these buckets. Some guys you probably would expect. Greens and reg in that same time frame makes a lot of sense as well. Ron made the case for overall proximity, not a stat we typically go to often, but there's a case to be made for that as well. So let's just go strokes gained approach when the green and reg accuracy is difficult. Approach, green and reg is difficult. I like that. And again, there's a case to be made for multiple ways to take advantage of approach buckets, because like the par threes are hard here, the par fours are hard here, like some of the hardest par fours on tour. So you got to be able to make your headway scoring wise on the par fives, but pretty much everyone can get to those for the most part. So it's a little bit tricky. So all right, we'll reset the filter. We did a off the tee, we did an approach. What do we want to do around the green? Matters. Of quite a bit.
Yeah. It's short stuff. I mean, you could go short grass, but I mean, it might just be. I don't want to use proximity here because of the smaller greens. I think a lot of that matters less.
Sure.
It's probably just straight up ARG or scrambling percentage is what I'd look at when I'm looking at short game here.
Do you want to do any gaining around the green? Is scrambling from the rough, scrambling from short grass? Look, I don't usually do sand saves, but if you ever had a case to be made for a place to do something with bunkering, it would be here. There's a lot of them, and they're deep. So it is a little bit harder. So again, not something for me, but if that's a thing for you, it may be something to take a look at. Maybe just to weed out guys, right? Like
it's the only way that bunker shots are hard anymore is if they're deep. Yeah. Like
they're deep.
Everyone's
what
so
they did
good.
in Canada. Canada, they did the eyelashing around the coming out, like, so that helps too. Just another little thing to help you clear the top. So let's just see difficult, very difficult when you have to gain around the green. That's kind of a newer thing here too through the redesign. Gaining around the green, even though it does matter quite a bit, is a little bit harder. So we'll back out our sample.
Bigger sample.
Let's see here. Strokes gained around the green when it's difficult and very difficult to gain. Scotty, Benny Ann, that's nice for him. Jason Day, Seabez, Henley, Finau, Jaeger, Cole, JT, Finau is your top 10. Interesting mix. It's going to bode well for Benny Ann here, I think. So, all right, gaining around the green, difficult. All right, anything scoring wise or putting or you want to take a look at?
You already mentioned, we want to probably avoid three putt. Three putt avoidance isn't really a thing here.
Yeah, it's a little easier.
If you're three putting, you're fucked anyway. Like we're not asking you to nail 75-foot lag putts left and right.
Yeah, bogey avoidance though. Bogey avoidance.
Yeah, I was going to say bogey avoidance is kind of up there with scrambling, but bogey avoidance takes into a couple other things. So I'm fine with just putting that in. That, like we said, the course management, the thinking your way around some of these holes, knowing when you're out of position, finding your way to pars, scrambling, and avoiding bogeys. So yeah, I'm fine with that for a scoring ad.
I love it. Again, another thing, like I'm not going to model it per se. Ron touched on it. Multiple player quotes touching on apex height really mattering here because again, firm and fast greens, long iron shots, smaller greens too. So being able to hold the greens, having the club head speed to navigate the thick rough too. Looking at these, I think is interesting this week. Not necessarily something that I like to model very often, but I think apex height is something that I would at least kind of peruse, similar to like bunkering, right? Like again, doesn't have to be added to the model, but take a look, see if it rules anyone out or gives you confirmation bias on anyone here too. That could make some sense. So, all right, I think that's probably enough. We got 5 things. Let's see what we got. It's about the wheelhouse where we typically live. Yeah. Anything you want to add?
It's where I like to be. No, I'm fine with this. I think it grabs pretty much the biggest key stats that we need to be looking at for this spot.
Yep. Again, personal model. I got a lot more of this. I got a lot more things. Again, there's so many different ways too. You make the case that getting too many things, you start double counting too frequently, and you got to be really careful where there's overlap or sample sizes where you're messing too much with it. So that's why this is unique. That's why you can have multiple models made and look very different from like who's in the top 10, who's in the top 20 of these models. So it's going to give the report a name. This is our betting show, Muirfield Village. And again, going back here, if you wanted to, you can download any of these little things into a CSV, build a bunch of different models in Excel, chop it up, do whatever you like with it. You can go to this view expert ranking section too, and you can get the models made by contributors and our staff here listed here. Very easy to see. Again, hey, what someone adding that I'm not, what are they weighing? What, all those things, just kind of another way to kind of help you build your model out. So bogey avoidance, I'm going to drop down a little bit. Difficult long, I'd probably want to make more of an anchor. I think total driving, we need to That would be pretty strong. I'd probably just give this other 5 at least here. Around the green, 20%. Hey, why not? It matters quite a bit this week.
Yeah, I don't think we'd normally wait around the green that high, but I'm fine with it this week, 100%.
Okay. All right, sweet. Let's just see what this gives us. Save it. Again, you could save as many of these things as you would like. As you can see, you can run some evergreen ones like Andy was talking about. Just kind of save those bad boys and take a look at them moving forward. Let's see. I think we're going to get Scotty Scheffler at the top. Just a guess. Benny Ann probably looking good too, based off of some of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, ooh. Okay. Number 1, Scotty Scheffler. Number 2, Xander Schauffele. 3, Ludwig Oberg. Hideki Matsuyama, 4th. Akshay. Surprising, but I get it. 5th, Russell Henley. Decent course history here. 6th, Rory McIlroy. 7th, Tony Finau. 8th, Siwoo Kim, another shorter, accurate guy with some good course history here. 9, Alex Noren. Shocking miscut last week. Comes in at 10. So, yeah, the rest of the top 20, these are some of the guys that we're expecting to see here too, just right outside. Connor's ball striking has been immaculate. Hovland, Fleetwood, Lowry, Benny Ann, 15. Max getting a nice bump for these difficult courses, being weighed heavily. He's right there, right outside there as well. So, let's look at the inverse. Let's see who's bringing up the rear. I thought Sneds would be there. Sneds, Dunlap, Seamus, Peter Malnati, last on the odds board. I believe 600 to 1 on Malnati to win the event this week. Davis Riley, Adam Schenk played fairly well here last year. Matt Kuchar, Taylor Pendrith, kind of your back end of guys. Billy Ho back here as well. Knocked out my boy Aaron Wise. Could not chase down Billy Ho there late in the 2020 events. Can we get an Aaron Wise update? How's my guy's mentals? What's he doing? Took a time off for mental health.
It's golf. You don't get updates. You don't get any updates on golf.
Well, yeah.
No one.
I don't even know how Ludwig's knee is. I would love Ludwig's knee. Aaron Wise's mentals. How are my guys doing? We'll see. Thoughts here, Andy?
I'm betting Rory the week before a major. Like, I honestly think his, and I get it. I get where Scotty's at. And I understand. I wonder if he's at the same level as we saw a couple months ago with everything, just like the stress of the pregnancy and the pressure to keep winning and the arrest and all that bullshit he had to deal with. I'm not saying there's no gap between Scotty, Xander, and Rory, but I think the Xander-Rory gap is a little smaller between them and Scotty. And having Scotty in the field at 4 to 1 or less is giving you a better Rory number than I think you should have. I don't like betting him, but I'm getting 10 to 1 almost in a small field event in a spot where his skill set is fine. Like, I get that his around the green stuff isn't as good, but I'm actually not as worried about that. I think he's going to find some goddamn greens. He can, the gains he's made in distance, and now he's dialed back in on the accuracy. He's going to have some very, desirable lies for some of his approach shots. You see the picture I picked for him? I'm taking nominations. I'm slowly filling in all the photos. Like, I'll take nominations on Twitter if anyone has a photo they really like of one of the golfers. I'm just working my way down the OWGR. Hollywood with 1 L, Northern Ireland. I always forget that. 5'10", my ass. Okay. I guess I'm 5'10" too. Yeah. I don't know what else I need to say about Rory. Like, he has the skill to win a major championship if his head was right. But he seems to do fine outside of those. So plus 992 on Bookmaker. That is the only bet I've made without, there's a bunch in consideration. I wonder where Zalatoris's injury status is, because this is another spot where why shouldn't he play really well here? And he's 75 to 1. That's probably a placement bet. Like you said, I said Xander, it's one of those where, we want him to play well until they win, and then we can't bet him to win again. Xander's like 9 to 1. And I'm saying, like, Scotty being plus 372 right now is just buoying up those two's prices. And I think it's a lot closer to a threesome than Scotty and a gap. So I might be looking at betting both of those guys. It's going to be a small card. It's going to be more matchups again. I'm going to stick to matchups, but like outside of that, I don't know. I guess I don't know exactly where I'd want to go outside of some longer shots.
These Rory ball striking numbers are pretty fantastic. Kind of hard to argue. And you look at the last 12 rounds, he's gaining, but basically 2 shots around over his rolling 50 baseline, which is still really, really good. And look at the ball striking. He's up another spot where he's up a full stroke ball striking the last 12 rounds compared to the last 50 rounds. So, yeah, he's playing really well. When you make the case for Rory, it is unsettling and does bring pause because it's not your preferred. This is not a I want to bet my guys take. I want to cheer for my homeboy watching golf this weekend. This is not what
I'd prefer he was arrested and sent to prison for the rest of his life. But at the price, I'm gonna back him.
Yeah, I know. I get it. It's definitely interesting. Scotty, like I'm probably just committed to. I might just have a single bullet next week at the U.S. Open. So I don't want to justify. I don't want to do that 2 weeks in a row. It's super boring. So this week it was like either Scotty or my guys, and I went with like a group of my guys this week instead, taking the alternative of just the Scotty double. And I'll wait for Caesars to open once this tournament starts. Caesars will let me add Scotty live for this and add a parlay with the U.S. Open next week, and I'll take a shot there to try to get a bigger U.S. Open Scotty number because I think Pinehurst sets up so well for him. But you can make the case, and we definitely did, that the big three that you're talking about right now, and again, it was different last year because we had John Rahm in the mix still, and I'm a sucker for it. It's only one event, really. But, man, August last year, Victor Hovland's in that mix, right? And, again, we really only saw it kind of come together for the one event at the PGA Championship, but he's reunited with his coach who, again, he danced around with like 3 coaches while trying to figure out how to replace Joe Mayo, came back to him, and instantly the ball striking is just out of this world. He's your defending champ here. Some people that will just instantly cross him off because like you can't possibly win an event back-to-back years. But what's required at Muirfield Village fits Vic's game to a T. Even through the struggles this year, he's gained off the tee in like 83% of his rounds played, which is like better than anyone else in this field. And that's kind of just the prerequisite to get started this week. So I went to the well on Vic at the top. He's my shortest odds this week in terms of, betting my guys, but also betting just elite ball strikers who keep themselves in play this week. And, Hovland kind of fits the bill there. So that was my first click.
What'd you get? 16-ish now. Did you get a better price?
I got 18. Yep, 18.
It's not bad. I can live with that. Yeah, I agree with you. He's played well here. He can certainly compete. And like you said, he's back with the coach that matters and apparently did matter and has mattered in the past. So it's all good signs for him. I love that we have Akshay and Russell Henley up in our model here, but I don't think I'm betting them outright at a signature event against the field. We've seen a lesser name, no disrespect, win signature events, but not at a course like this. Like we've talked about this and, the Century or whatever it was, the first spot where Scotty went out and shot 22 under, finished 5th. Easy peasy, coming off a layoff, comes in. Like it's not because it's one of those courses where the winner's going to shoot 4 or 5 better than that. And there's not a lot about that course that helps the best golfers in the world differentiate themselves from golfers who are not as good as them. Whereas this course does. This course, you really would need the sun run to beat all of these top golfers. So, there's so many, just year and year and year and year and out of like guys who are in the top 15 of the OWGR winning this. That's how, for the most part, even with majors. And, obviously we had some outliers last year, but like Clark kind of backed it up and I know he's not playing as well as right now, but Clark packed up what he did at the U.S. Open last year.
1,000%. Yep.
So
Harman's been more of a stable guy. The only one that I think, when I'm thinking back, I'm probably missing someone that is the counter case of that in the signature events, difficult course era that we've had for the last couple of years, is Kurt Kitayama winning at Bay Hill. It's the only one. Tough course.
I don't want to
difficult scoring
conditions.
Yeah. I mean, he's not been in the mix for really winning another event. You know, that was his win. He hasn't. It's like we've had a lot of like first page of the leaderboard Kitayama on Sundays since the Bay Hill win. You know, so he's in the mix. I think he's another great fit here for a finishing position. You know, long courses, difficult tracks, high rough. Like Kitayama's in the mix. Probably not winning, but you know, you want to bet a T30 or T40 in a small field, sure. But to your point, like guys that win are definitely the cream of the crop in these events. So yeah.
You got me all twisted up. Did you say Bay Hill?
Yeah, Kitayama won yeah, API.
That was last year.
Yeah, I'm saying in the signature event.
Yeah, that wasn't they weren't in double digit scoring like that year.
No, and that was Scotty in the mix at the very end. Yeah, I mean he held off some guys. Hovland was in the very I know I had Hovland that week. Hovland was in the mix in the very end, and Kitayama held him off. So yeah, that's kind of the interesting one. So right now you only have Rory. You're considering just the 2-man top of the board. FU Scotty, Rory, Xander double. Interesting. I don't hate it.
Zalatoris 75-1. Talk me out of it.
I did. I bet it.
Okay. All right. I might add that. He's just too good. His ceiling is still like major winner, and
1,000%.
He's got a lower price than terrible golfers like Keegan Bradley. No offense.
Watch your mouth.
I know. I'm sorry. Speed is like 40-1, guys. Like, how am I not betting Will Zalatoris at 75? This is just basically is he still injured?
Correct. Yeah. And we don't know. Maybe he is. It hasn't been great. Let's see what we can see what Zalatoris gets us. I got to do it on this page. You can go to the top of this player page, literally just type in any player, and it'll take you to their player page. But yeah, I mean, it's not been great, but it's such a long number. We don't have a Zalatoris. Yeah, we'll have to find a good Zalatoris. But look, I mean, putting hasn't been fantastic. Fourth rounds have been pretty bad. But look at this. This is out of whack. He plays so much better when the course is hard. When the field strength is strong. This is Zalatoris. This is nuts. But this backs up what we see. But look, the last 12 rounds have not been very good. Nothing really in the game has been dialed in. Has not really flirted with the top 30 even since his T9 at the Masters. But that's him. He T9 at the Masters. Same thing. API, T4, the Genesis, T2. These are signature events and difficult golf courses. Scoring conditions are hard. He should have won the Genesis, but he got tracked down by an absolute nuclear Hideki. His T4, he was in the sideline of watching Wyndham and Scotty go back and forth. But yeah, 75, it's too long. It's just too long. Like, it could be fine. If he's fine, he should be 30, 40.
It's pretty
max.
Pretty close. Pretty close to just taking that caddy from Happy Gilmore and putting him as the picture for Sal. But that's inaccurate. It's a different person. All right. Yeah, I think that's it for my card for now. I'm gonna have matchups. I'll post them. I post them in the Discord. Look at me, Discord member, Discord contributor. We went 3-2 in Discord matchups. Not a big deal. One of them that I lost was plus money, so saved a little juice there. Look at that. I'll have some more this week as we dig in. I've already got kind of a start on that. I like this. I wanted to ramp up because the U.S. Open, the offerings for the majors is just so much bigger. You can have so many bets you can make. I got to decide.
Well, we showed this last week. Our custom simulator. We went through this. This will be updated literally the minute our show finishes on Tuesdays at noon Eastern. So last week we bumbled our way through this and did not have an accurate field. If I did it again, we'd be in the same spot. But this should be updated on Tuesday afternoons moving forward, so folks know. But a great resource for people to check out. My betting preview is up on the site. I made it free for you to check out this week. Put some of the rabbit hole filters in there. Let you look at some of the data, some of the player page specific stuff. If you want to see the rest of my card, that is led by Victor Hovland and bookcased, I guess, at the end with Will Zalatoris. But there's a couple more just guys that I like, guys that fit this course well, that are just too long number wise. In my opinion, those are available for you to see. Click here for free over at Betsperts Golf and check it out. So, Liv, you want to give us any Liv Houston stuff before we wrap up? Or is that still
no, I do have a bunch of it's mostly notes. I'm putting it. It's still harder to like come up with information on these courses. Even one like this where we've played here. We've had not major, but we've had a PGA event here in the past. It's been like 5 years, but it's not too dissimilar. If Muirfield was a lot easier, but 72, about 7,500 yards. Distance probably pays in a little more here, but it's going to be a weird setup of holes. If you look at some of the historical stuff, and I do need to like double check that the setup is going to be similar as far as the distances for each hole compared to what I'm looking at for like 2018, 2019, but it's a wide dispersion to the ends for approach shots where it's like way too many 250-yard approach shots and way too many 75-yarders, where it's wedges. And I guess, what are you hitting if you have 250 in?
I'm hitting
an 8. I'm just planning on hitting again.
Yeah, it's probably the best. It's probably the best play, to be honest. I find that I score better too when I take my medicine on some of those holes versus. I know they'll tell you, especially
hitting
for hacks like us. Yeah, chase it down there as far as you can. I did upgrade my hybrid prior to my golf trip, and it's been a great club. But I like it more off the tee. But yeah, you want to run it up there as far as you can.
I've had better luck hitting like, stepping up, decreasing my launch angle, and just hitting something low and hard with those hybrids and just letting it run. Especially just hope they don't water. Maybe I can get 200 yards out of it if it just keeps running. So I don't know. That's what I'm saying. There's going to be a lot of long approach shots. Greens, I believe greens were easier to find. Fairways were it's going to be pretty low scoring, I believe, for some of these guys. The winners, those last few years, were about 20 under. Granted, they had a whole extra round of golf, so probably shooting for about 15 under here. Maybe a little lower considering, some of the guys and some of the distance gains, some of the some of the teams, even like the Crushers. They got a couple guys. I can't name another team that has like long hitters. I can think of the Cliques. The Cliques is such a terrible name.
Cliques is I was about to say the Cliques.
The High Flyers.
The Range Goats got some bombers out there, right?
Good one. Yeah, there's a couple bombers in the Range Goats. So looking, I'll have a preview up on the site here probably this afternoon for Houston.
Okay. How about Torque?
No bets made except for a Rory Brooks double. And that would
Rory Brooks
140 to 1. I don't know. Something like that.
I miss Mito Pereira. I would like I don't think he's been doing anything on Live either, which has been tough. But man, before I clicked on the odds, I'm like, what's my guy? He'd tell me it's a long track. What's my boy Dean Burmeister posted at? But that's 20 to 1.
Yeah, I've seen some people who have posted some bets getting in on him because he looked pretty good a couple weeks back. So he's going to be 20, 25 to 1, something like that. But it's not a bad bet.
No. Won a couple weeks before too on Live, so he's already already found the leader, their winner's circle there. So yeah, hey, why not? It's the week to pay attention to Live too, right? The lead up to a major, you'd like to see these guys in a little bit of form before deciding on what to do. Some of those guys out there hustling their butt yesterday, the longest day of golf, trying to qualify for the U.S. Open, while some sit at home entitled, feeling like they should have got an invitation. So tough to see, but. Yeah,
I don't have any
love
takes
yesterday.
on the Scandinavian mixed.
No,
I think that's a boys and girls tournament.
it is.
So the ladies will be also playing, but it's not like the I don't think it's a lot of the LPGA ones. It's more of the European based LPGA players, which I mean there are quite a few of those. Try to find who the highest rated woman would be in this field. Lynn Grant, is that a player? Got Madeline Sagstrom, 35-1. They're not that far down, so watch out, fellas.
Okay.
Rasmus Højgaard is
a
your
woman
favorite.
won last year, didn't she?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I forget what it was. I remember watching some of that on Sunday morning last year, the lead-in. Yeah, interesting event. I like just, we talked about, we got rid of match play, like just those little wrinkles in season to break up the monotony of, stroke play, mix it up a little bit. It's kind of a cool event. So, all right, folks, that wraps us up. Bring us home, Andy.
All right. We'll see you guys next week. Check out the DFS show on this same YouTube channel, the same podcast feed. If you want some of that, that's about one. I say about one because it is about 1:15 tomorrow. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. If you listen to this in podcast form, leaving us a 5-star review goes a long way. Follow us on Twitter. If you have any questions about the rabbit hole, the premium membership, the promo code summer24, or anything else, our DMs are open on Twitter at Betsperts Golf. Hit us up. We try to check those a few times a day and answer any questions you may have. And for that, check ya. Enjoy the Memorial. See you next week for the U.S. Open. Final note, because I have a little bit of a conflict, we're going to push back a half hour. So 10:30 Central, 11:30 Eastern, 8:30 Pacific next week, just 1.5 hour late for the betting show in case, you set your watch to this or something. See you guys.
If you do, we appreciate that.